What's up, guys? This is Adam from Oceano, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 121, I believe. And today's guest, we're talking to Adam Warren. Adam Warren is the lead singer for the band Oceano, deathcore band from Chicago, Illinois. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, and basically going down the albums, talking about the albums as well. So without further ado, let's go talk to Adam. So what's up, guys? I'm here with Adam Warren from Oceano. How are you doing today, Adam?
Good. Had some tacos. Good start to today.
Yeah, can't go wrong with some tacos, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of like the format is, I want to do like a rundown of your catalog as well as talk about like your vocal list journey from where you started to now. But I'm just curious, take me back to young Adam Warren days. What were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
The first bands that got me into metal were Papa Roach, Slipknot, Killswitch Engage, and I also credit, though they're not metal, Green Day, because that was the first more heavier alternative thing I heard. So
Yeah.
those things kind of got me interested in the aggressive nature, the intense nature of heavier music, because I didn't listen to music at that point. So that was the first thing I heard that interested me.
Yeah, that's cool because for me, when I was younger, I was always like those new metal bands. I know said Papa Roach and Slipknot, but also I was like into Linkin Park. They were like
Oh yeah.
the gateways for me when I was like 10, 11. There was like harder sounding music before metal came and took over my life.
Mhm.
But then, of course, it was also the metalcore bands from that time, like Killswitch Engage, Unearth, As I Lay Dying, All That Remains, and stuff like that. That they also got me into like metal, and then eventually get me into like more metal, like death metal, black metal, and all that shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a journey once you get into it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And so, what were your bands before you joined up Oceano? I'm always curious. I love to hear the in depth of that.
Yeah, I had before I joined Oceano, I had I say two and a half bands. I was in my first band was called Otis, and then that I don't even know how that probably lasted like maybe 2 years, 3 years, something like that, and then maybe less than that. But then we tried to start a new project out of that, called Nothing Stays Gold, which also was like, I believe, like the old name of who is that, Jesse and some other dudes, but Jesse from Killswitch is one of his old bands was named Nothing Stays Gold, I'm pretty sure. So we went with that name. Fuck it, that band didn't exist at that point anyway. So we were Nothing Stays Gold, but we didn't play a lot. We played like mostly basement shows or like garage shows, like just with friends. So nothing really more than that. It was just like a 3-piece project out of the 4 to 5 guys that were in my previous band. And then from there, that fizzled away right around the same time I was joining another band called Eyes of a Killer, which is like it was like metalcore, like more like breakdown Latin metalcore, I guess, because I could say that. And then I was just doing whatever I wanted to do on vocals, nothing specific, singing, screaming, talking, I did it all. So pretty much all my old projects were nothing like Oceano. Actually, I'm actually better. I'm a better metalcore metal vocalist than I am a deathcore vocalist. So if that says anything.
All right. And so, how did you end up joining Oceano? Because I believe the band formed 2006, but you joined 2007. So, how did you join the band and get to know the guys at the time?
Yeah, I was asked by the guitarist at the time, Jeremy, to try out slash join. This came from us talking on AOL Instant Messenger way back in the day, and we just became friends on there. And we never really met in person. We became friends on there, and eventually we started going to shows that each other were at. But he was northwest burbs of Chicago, and then I was like south side, so we're in completely different scenes. And eventually we linked up, tried out. He asked me to join, and we shifted members. The current vocals at the time went to bass because he was not hacking it. Drummer stayed, and I joined very soon after that. Drummer left, was replaced. A second guitarist was brought in. That bassist who had moved from vocals left and was replaced with like an actual like not to say that guy was bad, but he was not a trained bassist. This guy that we got was a trained bassist. So then the actual full, like, I think the first full knowledgeable dedicated lineup of Oceano started like at that moment.
All right. And were you kind of like nervous, like replacing the original singer? I believe it was Eddie at the time.
At the time, it was a mixture of a bunch of different people. No offense to them, but I wasn't worried about it because I knew I could do better, or else I wouldn't have joined because I did not like this band before a certain point. And that was the point when Jeremy asked me, and because I expressed to him like I really like what you guys are doing now. So I was never really intimidated by it because I knew that eventually I would get better over time. And either way, I'm just having fun.
Awesome. And so I guess seeing eventually you were playing locally around Chicago and stuff, and then you got signed to your first label, Earache Records. How did they find Oceano?
Earache, I don't know specifically how they did, but how it came about was through them emailing us. Pretty much, we were just doing our thing. It was pretty soon after we had dropped it's technically unreleased, but we dropped a few songs off of an EP that we were getting ready to release. And right at that moment, it must have been us dropping those new songs. They caught wind to us, and then they hit us up pretty quickly. It had to have been like a month, no more, maybe 2 months tops of us gearing up for this EP. I remember us finishing off the payments on the recordings and shit, and then they hit us up and like, oh, well, we're re-recording again. So that's where all those, the Depths album is a combination of like songs we had when I first joined, and then some other songs we wrote or revisited to make Depths.
Yeah, and what was the thought process? What was the thought process making Depths? Because I think, in my opinion, it's one of the best deathcore debut albums of all time.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's probably one of the best things is there wasn't like a deep concept or anything to it. We all had our tasks, and we had to report to this basement and come back with our homework completed. So and that's just what we did. There was no really like theme, concept, direction. I was from my end, I was writing things that I felt fit within the themes and concept of deathcore, death metal at the time was more prominent, and just putting a message behind it that I believe in. And that's always been the case since I joined the band. And those guys' tasks were to write some heavy fucking music to carry the message, and that's kind of how we have always come at it. And since then, it's just kind of evolved into other creative ways to do that.
Right. And tell me about like the touring cycle for Depths. Did you, once you got signed to Earache and when you put this out, did you start like touring outside of Chicago for the first time?
Yeah, we were already touring outside. We were already touring both locally, so you could do a few shows in Illinois, up the state and down. But then we were already getting out of state. We were doing mostly regional stuff, so we do weekend tours, like like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just whatever would work based on who could get off work or school. We had one member that was just finishing high school, so we just made it work whenever we could. We just pushed it further than a local band, and that's how we got our foot in the door.
They're awesome. And like this whole album is great. Like Descent, like I think that's just if you're gonna start an album right, it has that great intro which goes into Inhuman Affliction. Great, another great song.
Thanks.
Like, I think it just goes well. And of course I love the biggest song on here, probably my favorite Oceano song, District of Misery, with that insane like drumming. Like
yeah,
how did that song come to be? I think that's one of my favorite Oceano songs. I think it's like your guys' hit, so to speak.
Yeah. Really, we're just in a basement messing around. I think that at its core, something that's been lost. We were just hanging out in the basement having fun with music. And I'm pretty sure Danny, being the personality that he is, he just fucks around his drum kit. So we were just, Jeremy would show us a riff, or Andy would show a riff, someone would present an idea, and we jam on it, and that's what came from it. Like there was it was as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah, that drumming's fucking insane in that song.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than I realized when I started seeing people attempt it versus like what our drummer does.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I bet you they try to look up if you've ever seen like any like drum covers of that song on YouTube, you're like, they can't even come close.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. But then moving on to the next album, Contagion, I'll be missing the booklet here, but usually with
Ah,
the debut album, you have like your entire life to write it, and then there was always like hype that goes along with the first album. When it
mm-hmm.
came time to write Contagion, did you felt like pressure to follow up Depths?
No, I felt excited because mm, pretty much that was at the time Contagion was getting prepped. We lost the final. We had Danny on Contagion. So Danny was besides me, Danny was the only other person that rolled over from Depths into Contagion. So that was honestly exciting for me for many reasons. Better attitudes, an easier writing process that was more inclusive to everybody contributing. We had at that time actually two different guitars come in. One of the songs was written by this dude named Jimmy, who was in an amazing band called The Beholder. Didn't work out, but he's a cool dude. Then we got Devin, who's now in Acacia Strain. So we were Devin's, precursor to Strain. So all those influences, we had multiple creatives contributing on the album on top of Zeus, who's an amazing legendary producer, literally, like developing our creative mindset for how to make a good metal album at that time. Like that album is what made me think a different way about music. So all of that was exciting. We had guests come over, like we hung out with Molotov Solution came over. They're on the album. We have the Spies Icon on the album. We almost had Krista from Iwabo on it, but they still hung out with, we had all this shit going on during the creation of the album. That's probably the most fun I've had besides the writing part, just the experience. That was the most fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And how'd you end up getting like Alex and Steve from Despised Icon on what was the song? Yeah, Viral Reanimation, and Nick from Molotov Solution on Persuasive Oppression?
I just I it was we've toured with them, we've played with them, we've become, I believe, friends with them, and above that and before that, we're always fans of those bands, and we've never tried to hide our influences and what drives us and motivates us. So that's exactly how I came into it. I express myself and I'd say exactly how I feel, which was these bands specifically are bands that made me and helped me become the vocalist and creative that I am, and I wanted them to be a part of this album. And that's pretty much how I said it, just probably with a little less insight, but I'm a lot smarter now. But basically like that, just less words.
Yeah, and I also noticed that Contagion came out like literally like a year after Depths, just came out the next year. Did you like started writing for Contagion right after Depths was released?
No, it was a mess to get to that point of writing that because of like the shifts in members and stuff. I moved to Wheaton, Illinois, and I started living with my friend who, at that literally on the spot, that very next day after the phone call, became the lead guitarist of Oceano. That's how it started. The lead guy left, and the lead guy left because he wasn't into us having who became the lead guy be just a second guitarist. So interestingly, full circle, karma comes, and he became our lead guitarist. And so it was him and I pretty much working it out. Then eventually, a few days later, Danny came over. He stayed over there for a bit. Jason came over, and let me correct that too. Jason also rolled over from Depths. Just a little tidbit on Depths. Jason joined the band the day we went to Joy Sturgis to start the recording process. Our bassist didn't show up to leave to go to Joey Sturgis. And we had a friend named Jason Jones who on the spot came in, learned the parts, played some parts, didn't play some parts. Then later he became after that, he was a full-time member. So that's another thing. So Jason was there with us too. I just forget, that was a really quick change, but yeah, it was cool. Everything, I mean, all that, especially that era, was a great experience through and through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still another great sophomore release.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I also wanted to kind of break away a little bit. I noticed like there's this video on YouTube. I think it's like you and this guy Travis did like an acoustic song called "Where I'm After." I think it's a great song, and I also showcase like you have a great singing voice on that. How did that song come to be? Because I know that song has been around since like 2011 was when it was uploaded.
I just wanted to do acoustic music, and I had a friend who was very into like more rock, but was very interested in metal too, and was very supportive of what I was doing on the metal side. I was like, hey, let's try something out. You might have been some friends suggesting it even too. I think that might have been part of it, best friends, close friends at the time, like, hey, you guys need to, I think that probably was part of it. Like, you guys need to work out, like maybe, link up, go over and see what you can do. And then became closer friends and just started writing music. We've probably wrote like over like 20 songs. They just all didn't get released.
Wow. Is there a chance maybe you could like release it one day?
I doubtful. I would be willing to show it off for sure. I think I have some of it on disc, so I just have to get it onto my computer. I've definitely show it off, but I think there'd be more potential for me just to do a project similar to that in the future again.
Yeah. Have you thought about maybe like experimenting with like some acoustic and clean vocals with Oceano?
I think me and Scott have kind of come like eye to eye on like we Scott's vision of Oceano does not have like your traditional type of like singing in it. And though I can do it, I understand that not everything needs to have everything you can give to it. So I've like, I came in Oceano with a certain objective for it to be heavy and be meaningful. And based on Scott not liking the idea of singing, it's not meaningful to like what we're doing. So Oceano will probably never have it in the way that most people think about it, but it will be executed, let's just say, in the background and in different ways that are still melodic, but not your typical, like, I don't know, think of any band that sings and that does metal. It won't be like that. It'll be a little bit more coarser, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
And then kind of moving on to the next album, Incisions. And so what was that like going from Contagion to this? Because I know there was like a 3-year difference. Do you really wanted to like take your time to make this album?
No. That one, the reason that took so long because that was another member shift. A lot of people were going through, life changes and things like that. I've pretty much been very cemented in this lifestyle since I got into the band. I started at 19 and I've been doing shows since before that. So just people to have life changes, when you meet new people in your life, like partners, like, and things like that, all that shit changes up a lot of shit. So, we're all young dudes. So pretty much I'd say like 70% of the band during Incisions. So the current Contagion lineup, 70% of that, like, left in the process of trying to get that shit recorded, released, started, all of that. And so by the time that album was out, there were moments where people from Contagion era contributed, but by the time it was all said and done versus Contagion era lineup, it was only me and Nick and Jason. But like after the album was out, we started touring on it, it was only me. Like when we were really deep in it, kind of rolling off of that album and kind of preparing for whatever's next, I was the only one left from all the past albums.
Oh wow. And I know I know that this year is also the 10-year anniversary of this album.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It would be cool if you did like a tour. Maybe I don't think maybe play it start to finish, but like maybe bring in some like deep cuts from this. Maybe songs that haven't been played live in since the album came out, or maybe just not haven't been played live ever.
Yeah, there's only been like 2 or 3 songs off that's ever been played.
Which ones? I think is it the title track or
we did Incisions, Slow Murder, and we did 4. Self-Exploited was played very loose shortly, and then New Age Apophis we played a few times also.
Yeah, it's still another great album.
Thanks. That one's a little weird. You can tell that there was a lot of changes happening at that point, I think.
Yeah. Then moving on to the next album, Ascendance. I love this album. And fun fact, this album actually came out on my birthday in 2015. Nice. So it was a cool kind of birthday present for me.
Hell yeah. What was that, like August 17th or something?
It was March 23rd, 2015.
March 23rd?
2015.
Nice.
Yeah. Tell me about like the making of Ascendance.
Ascendance was cool. It was a little rushed, but we felt rushed, but the result wasn't rushed, if that makes sense. Like there was definitely pressure, not pressure to perform any certain way, but just to we didn't really like, and me when I got Scott in the band, we both agreed like yes, Incisions is like it's something different, but we didn't like that was the last representation of Oceano. Like I think Scott as a pre-existing listener and fan of Oceano versus me being in the band, from depths, basically the jump of the career we made out of it, we both agreed that like that's not what we see the band doing in the future. And that's the exact reason why I got Scott in the band, was because he came from a few bands. He was in this band called Doomsday Catalyst from Illinois, and he was also he's technically still in it. It's his project called Delta. So I already knew what he would bring to the table, and that's exactly what I wanted Oceano to start encompassing, was closer to a blend of like a little bit of gent, progressive, and then your deathcore as your main course. So bringing him in, I was very eager and excited to fucking see that man go to work, because I knew what he was already capable of, and I knew it would help shape the sound that I felt Oceano should be. And he nailed it. I think that looking back now versus what me and him are creating now, it doesn't even come close to what we're doing now. But for that time, that was very exciting to hear and see the band evolve far away from the last album, and even the one before that. Like the sentence is drastically different approach to like the sound than every other album.
Yeah, and I also love like the album artwork is
Yeah,
fucking badass. Like, who did this?
that's Dusty Peterson. He's done everything besides Ascendance and Depths. So everything else he's done.
Oh wow.
So wait. Incisions, my bad. Incisions and Depths. He didn't do those. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also love this album. I feel like it has a little bit more melodic like overlays, like especially on Dawn of Descent with as well.
Oh yeah. That was one of the objectives. I told Scott, he's pretty good at nailing that. I'm pretty good at, I believe, sensing what our fans desire out of us, given they've heard it from us before. So I can kind of tell when our fans, like, man, I wish you guys would do more of this. And if we like that, let's put it in. That's the fans contributing to the creative process. And so I try and stay tapped into that when it's useful. And so I'll just give Scott objectives. Yo, we need more melody. And when you listen to our new stuff, there's more melody, and he just nails it. I'm like, yo, we need heavier parts. He's great. I can visualize it. He can visualize it, and he can paint the picture just as well as I can. And that's how we create.
Yeah. And also kind of like breaking away from Oceano, I want to talk a little bit about Demolisher, because nobody really ever talks about that. Tell me about like that project, like how that started and all that good stuff.
That's a good little throwback. That started right around, I think it started, so you had what, 3 years of time, leading up to Incisions, and there was some time once it was out. Right around that time, we weren't really doing too much, like, because like I told you, like that was a really rough time for the band's growth and stuff. It was stagnating, if not dwindling a little. So we weren't touring a lot, and it just wasn't worth it to tour at that point, and so I just I wanted something else, another project that was a little bit smaller scale, that didn't require as much out of me, so I could, also relax, given that Oceano's not touring a lot. So I started managing Demolisher. That was originally how I came into it. It was to manage them. And I started to realize, given the history I already had with Demolisher, doing a feature on the song, they're local, and just where I was at with my schedule with touring, which was very little, I figured the best thing that a manager could do is, given they had lost the vocalist, was give them the best vocalist you can find that you have a connect to. And as a manager, I realized the best vocalist I can help them find that I have a connection to is me. So I said, guys, I'm not going to be managing him. I'll still help as best I can. We're going to push this shit, but I should probably just join the band since you guys don't tour a lot. And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's go.
Nice. And then I believe like the first thing what you did was, I believe, Violent Society.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, tell me about like that. Did you want to like put yourself in like a different mind frame as opposed to Oceano?
That's very easy to do. Like it's literally like a snap of the finger thing for that. So it's almost like a marketing branding type of approach where it's like, what do I want the band to what I want the message to be, like, because as the vocalist, how do I want the band to be perceived? And so when I came into Demolisher, I wanted to change it up a little bit. I feel like a lot of heavy, like beat down bands, the message is often there, but sometimes it's not very clear. And so what I set out to do with the few songs I was involved with was start to create a very clear cut messaging for the band and a image for the band that set the tone for what you could expect when you listen to the music or when you go to a show, and kind of utilize my influence to leverage that and push it out further than they were doing. So that's really what I did. And so Violent Society is pretty much a reflective song on just how at that point, which you probably know better than me when that came out, but it was just me half predicting and seeing how just violent and how obsessed society is with violence and negativity and all that stuff. And that was just pretty, really that's how it started. And it was just, I started just consistently just writing introspective stuff like I usually do. Just with Demolisher, a little bit more in your face, I think, was the thing that I was going for.
Right, and I guess currently, I guess Demolisher is like done. Is there any chance you could do or a possibility you could do any new Demolisher stuff in the future?
Technically, when I actually left, so I left because I believe at that time they were trying to ramp it up more, and I was like, I want to like chill, so, and Oceano eventually, so I was like, I just can't, I can't do it. I'm gonna have to just pull back. And they had a homie named Josh come in, Josh Dubé, I believe his last name is. And so he came in and he's sick. So he became the vocalist. And I respect him for honoring the vocals that I wrote and also linking up with me to kind of, pick my brain on him. So he came in and then he wrote the rest of what will become that EP, I think. Or was it an album? I don't know. It was an EP or album called Violent Society. So like he kept going with the ideas, some of the ideas I had, and kind of expanded on it, which I think is when you come into like, a position like that, I think that's one of the coolest things you can do for the fans, is just keep building, on what the last members left behind.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then, so with him, they broke up.
Yeah. And then kind of like going back in the Oceano, the most latest album, Revelation, came out, and of course you got signed to Sumerian Records. How did you end up getting signed to the label?
We had a connect. I think it was, in my opinion, I believe it was a lot of things. I think Sumerian's a really rad label. They got a lot of rad people working there that are passionate about music, which is nice to have on your side. But I think it was through a lot of just, connections and the longevity of the band, proving that, even with the ups and downs, we're still here, so I think it was a mixture of them respecting that. We've always kind of been loosely connected through getting tour offers when Sumerian was, a little bit more, some of the team on Sumerian was a little bit more behind, booking a lot of the bigger concerts back in the day and stuff. So we were always getting invited to be on these Sumerian tours with other Sumerian bands. We're friends with a lot of Sumerian bands. We also started building a team that was very well connected with Sumerian as well. So I think, all those things played in favor to us once we got off our Earache contract, so that we would then move over and work with them. So very, very fortunate, because that was my top two. It was either them or Rise Records. Those are the two that I like a lot.
Yeah, I think Sumerian is a better fit for you guys, especially with like all the the core bands like Born of Osiris, After the Burial, and bands like that.
Oh yeah. It's a little fits. It's more home.
Yeah. And tell me about like the touring cycle for Revelation, because that was actually the first time I actually saw Oceano. Was you did the Summer Slaughter 2017? It was like Black Dahlia Murder, Dying Fetus, this and a bunch of other bands. That was the first time I ever saw Oceano. Tell me about like that tour.
That tour is sweet. It was Dahlia Fetus was Darkest Hour on that one?
No, I think it was like, I'm trying to remember the lineup. It was like Black Dahlia Murder headlining. They pretty much played their album Nocturnal in its entirety for the 10-year, and they had Dying Fetus, The Faceless.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Betraying the Martyrs, you guys. I can't remember everybody.
Rings of Saturn.
I think they were on that. Or was it no, I think it was Yeah, it was that year.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think
I
of
remember it.
there's too many summer slaughters to
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, that one was cool. That one was fun. It
Yeah.
was cool to play higher up on the bill. We had more space on stage to move around. All the venues were tight.
Yeah.
That was a really smooth tour. Really
Yeah.
smooth tour.
Yeah, and I was at that show in Atlanta, and you guys kicked so much ass.
Thanks. Oh, the Atlanta show. I like Atlanta a lot. It's a
Yeah.
fun place.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I think I saw you in 2018. You did the tour, of course, with our buddies in Carnifex.
Yeah. Oh, you were there for that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was hanging out. I was there for pretty much seeing my boys in Carnifex. Like Scott Lewis is pretty much a good buddy of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah, and then of course the last time I saw you, I actually traveled to Alabama for Whitechapel, Chelsea Grin, and I think a Slaughter to Reveal. And that was the last time I saw you guys. And I'm pretty much way overdue for another Oceano show. Yeah, because I think it was like after the touring cycle for Revelation, Oceano kind of unofficially went on a hiatus.
I mean, the government made us go on a hiatus just to set the record straight. I mean, we were touring all the way until November of 2019. The pandemic started to really pop off around, what was that, middle of 2020?
It was like March of 2020.
Yeah, so we got off tour when everyone was getting stuck in Europe and shit. And then I as the president of Oceano and CEO said, we're not going to tour for a few years because this is going to take a second where I feel comfortable that I'm not going to lose money doing this. So we took a break because that's what we had to do. So I waited another year extra, so just so I didn't look like a big fucking idiot. And here we are now, back on the road. We're healthier, sexier. I think we sound better. Scott's fucking writing the best music I've ever heard him write. I'm writing the best shit of my life. I think those 2 years were very necessary because we've been going nonstop since I started doing this at 19, and I'm 36 this year.
Wow. And
so I've only had 2 years off ever.
Yes. So kind of like during the break, I believe you started doing like the Twitch streaming. Where did the idea of that come to be?
That came about. I was living with two of my friends. Well, technically 3 of them. My friend and his brothers. They're all great friends now. But they're big into Twitch. They were always watching it, and they happened to be watching Dr. Disrespect. I had a lot of Oceano friends and fans also at that time on tour, knowing that I used to collect video games. They're like, oh, you should check out Twitch. You know, like a few every tour. And I was like, eventually I'll check it out. And I finally checked it out because they were watching it downstairs. You know, I just took a second to observe, asked, a million questions over maybe a few weeks. And I was like, okay, I see why this is cool. I'll try it out. And it's just started from there. I started as a character. I was playing like a character for 5 years.
Yeah, Black Mario.
Yeah, this is crazy. It was 5 years, but 5 years of that in between the touring. I did a few streams on tour as well. And then I changed it over to being me, Adam on Earth, and it's been pretty fucking awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of also wanted to break from Oceano again. I know you have another side project called Unworthy. So you tell me about like that.
Yeah. So that is dead, but I still tell you about it for sure. So I stopped that because I'm doing everything as me. So like, you brought like the acoustic, the R&B, the metal. I'm going to be doing my own thing that's separate, like you said, away from Oceano, that encompasses every single thing you've ever heard me do and every single thing you haven't heard me do to this date. It'll be all those styles and more. So I killed off the Unworthy thing because there will surely be moments where I'll probably do stuff like that, just a little bit more personal to me. But at the time I released it, I was sitting on those songs for 3 years. And I think both my messaging, the timing at which I released them, all of that stuff, I think didn't help its cause. And also it's a super big departure from what I'm known for. So not many people, I think, are aware that that is a thing besides the real dedicated people like you and everyone else who keeps up with me or like the band. So that was cool. I mean, I was sitting on those songs for 3 years. Cody from the Browning did the mix on those songs. They did 2 songs. It sounds amazing. He also did the beats too. He produced it and mixed it. And I'm proud of those songs, but it was just time to move forward with a more genuine approach.
All right, and kind of back to Oceano, because I know last August you released your first new song since 2017, mass produced, and I think that's a
Yeah.
great song. Is that like a like will be on the next Oceano album, or is this kind of like sort of like a one-off thing?
You know what? Just for you, because I haven't told anyone, I'm going to tell you everything. So anyone who's not watching this video, you're a fucking idiot.
It's an exclusive.
It's exclusive. So yeah, so mass produce is the first. We got plenty more. Mass produce. Scott sent me music, and I was live on Twitch, and I like looked in the folder. I was like, let's listen to a few. He didn't care, and we didn't even know when we were gonna start writing, on my end anyway. So I just listened to a few songs. I'm like, this is fucking good. I was like, what happened? Like we had ideas, like folders of ideas, but he went in and perfected them, and we just weren't talking for a while, and he came back with all these amazing revisions. And that was just the start. I was like, I gotta write to these like now. There's no waiting. Like it's fresh. I'm feeling it. So I just started writing to every song he sent me, like on the spot on Twitch, let everyone see it so they know it's real and move on. So we wrote the whole album that way. Like once or twice a week, I'd write an Oceano song and just send it to Scott and just crank it out. And that's how we got all this shit done. So mass produced probably wasn't the first one I touched, but it was in that mix. And I do have the process of me writing that at that point on YouTube. So that was one of the titular ones in like the first days of me starting to write for the new album and stuff. And came out great. That song it's very impressive on Scott's end versus the last album. He's doing so much shit I never expected him to throw at me, and it's exciting.
Awesome. And will this kind of be expected something to like what's the status for the new album? Like how far is it come along? Have you got like a release date and everything?
No release date. I'd like it to come out around my birthday, which the universe is kind of pushing it that way. So if you know me, then you can look that up and see when my birthday is. So if it can, it'll if I can make that happen, it'll come out as close to my birthday as possible. And that'll kind of be the tidal wave to usher in everything other thing that we're doing. Is that right around then there'll be like there'll be a tremor, and then there'll be a full-on earthquake. And so yeah, that's about then. I'll let people work for it.
Yeah, and kind of to wrap things up in the end, what's next for Oceano? Have you got any like new tours in the pipeline, or just anything else you wanna plug?
Yes, as I said, it'll start with tremors and then an earthquake, and that's how I'm gonna leave it.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll tell me when I turn off the recorder. Yeah, but before we go, I just want to thank you for this conversation, Adam. It was great to talk to you. Is just any final words you want to say to like close this out?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. I'm going to set a challenge out for you, and I'm going to tell you this one thing, and you need to put it in the comments if you know what it is. There is one thing in this room that I don't have that all of you probably do. What is it?
Oh, who knows? Probably the microphone.
Hey, this isn't for you. This is for them.
Oh, right.
I'll even move back a little bit. Just you can't tell them, but this is for everyone who's watching.
Right. So everybody, Adam Warren from Oceano. We'll see you next time.